Another episode. Who are these guys? Maybe a new intro because I don't see a picture from Z putting anything up on his phone. So I don't know if Overreaction City got him in a crusty mood. I'm not really sure. Z, do you want to go into that?
Well,
How about you show the footage?
hold on real quick. I needed to switch my microphone. Do I sound different? Sorry, guys. It was a little unprepared there, but I think we're good to go now. I think we're. How do we sound?
Good. You sound good. Z,
Yeah,
do you want to show that footage?
No, not really. No, and I'm not even gonna get into it. I mean, just a headache.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I Z, my head was already hurting when I read when I watched that video, and then I started reading the comments.
I mean, just causing issues when there doesn't need to be issues. Let's just say that.
Always has to be in the middle of everything that's going on.
Yep.
So, but as you guys can tell by the thumbnail, Z and I had a enjoyable NFL draft live stream last Thursday. Goes over goes quickly just like that. It's already over. Whole NFL draft. We had a good live stream Thursday, so thank you to everybody who showed up for that, who hung out for a little bit.
On his channel.
On my channel. So I would bring it over here, but it's like a 4-hour video. And I don't think, it's just gonna be too long.
Way too long.
But we thank you guys for that.
Yep.
Z and I here, we're going to just kind of give our overall thoughts about the draft and how we felt about it, the feel of it, and some of the teams that we liked what they did, our own teams, what they did, maybe a couple teams we scratched our head on because there's definitely a couple. Absolutely. And so we'll talk about that. But again, thank you guys who showed up for that. That is on my channel and in hindsight in the description down below if you're interested to see some of our live reactions to some of those picks. And Z and I were just going to keep trying to grind out this channel and just keep putting content out best we can. So we thank you guys for all who watch and who tune in. And Z, from the draft on Thursday, we'll just kind of start there. What was your overall feeling after Thursday? Like, did you think that it was exciting first round? Did you think it was just kind of there? Did you think it was a little uninteresting? What'd you think about the crowd? What'd you think about Roger? In terms of at least the first round, after, like, as we're kind of days after that, how do you kind of feel like it went and like it felt this year?
I would just use the word probably unpredictable because I don't think I don't know if we've ever seen a draft where I don't know how many picks it was, but like the first 13, 14 players or something, all being offensive players.
Yeah.
Not one single defensive player. And then, 5 quarterbacks being taken in the top 12. I can't remember that. And then, you can make a case for at least 2 or 3 of those 5 shouldn't be going in the top 12. 100%. And then after the 12th pick, there was another quarterback taken all the way till I think the 5th round, which was Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's crazy to think about, actually.
Yeah. So just an unpredictable draft. I mean, it's clear that it's an offensive league nowadays, and watching this past draft really proves that quarterbacks, receivers, tackles. I'm not saying those aren't viable positions, but no edge rushers taken in the first like top 15, no corners. I can't remember last time I've seen that. So I would just say it was a bit surprising.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. And we'll kind of talk about some of those surprise picks. Honestly, I thought the Detroit crowd was terrible. They didn't really give. I know whenever the crowd pans to some of the audience, people, but they really kind of just pan to that specific fandom of whatever team's picking. I think the crowd overall, I know they broke a record on the amount of people that attended the draft this year. That's great. But the crowd, it just wasn't really too lively. At least that's how it came across on TV. And,
well,
I thought the setup was nice. I like that they changed the draft setup every year. But the crowd just, I don't know. It just wasn't. I think that there's been some better atmospheres in the past when it's come to the NFL draft.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it had to do with just the Lions didn't have a high pick.
Yeah.
Uh, so all the, just really all the early draft picks are always the exciting part about the draft. And for the first time in many years, the Lions aren't really going to be picking there, and they're not going to be picking there for a long time.
Yeah.
Towards
Yep.
like the top 10, top 12 of the draft, which all
Yeah.
these.
They did trade up, which Z and I both thought was good. With
Yep.
who they selected, speaking of the Lions. But it was a fun draft. It was a draft this year that I felt after the first overall pick, like nothing was ultimately set in stone. I thought there would have been a little bit more fireworks this year in terms of maybe a couple bigger trades, but nobody really traded up until the 10th pick, which honestly really surprised me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they got all these quarterbacks being taken. And I'll get to the last one in a second, but top three, we knew who the top three were going to be. Bo Nix, surprising Denver taking him, but I mean, nothing, and I mean, absolutely nothing was as surprising as the one we are going to pull up for you guys, which will be which will be this right here. I mean, I don't think anybody, I don't think anybody could have saw in a million years or even a million mock drafts Michael Penix going to the Atlanta Falcons,
No,
or Michael
not at all.
Penix even going in the top 10. Like obviously that was just jaw dropping to probably everybody that was watching the first round. But
Yeah.
dude, and even said, and I think we agreed that this was the worst pick we've seen
Yeah.
in years.
Yeah. And it's not because like Z and I think Penix isn't good or won't have a good career. It's not that. Like he could end up being good and have a good career, but it just makes no sense, dude.
Yeah.
It's the worst pick in years because it makes no sense at all. It
Right.
really doesn't. And Atlanta's Z, what they came out and said, what Raheem Morris came out and said, I'm sure you saw it. Their reasoning, they were asked about this pick. Their reasoning is because they're looking at the Green Bay Packer situation. But it doesn't make any sense because Michael Penix is 24 years old.
Yeah.
So if you're going to follow that design where you hope Kirk at least plays 3 out of those 4 years on his contract at a high level, Penix is going to be 27 years old.
Right.
Jordan Love was drafted very young, so it made sense with him sitting 3 years. But that was their explanation of following Green Bay's model of the quarterback spot. And like, okay, if Michael Penix is 21 years old, 20 years old, 22 years old, maybe it's viewed a little differently. But you sign Kirk Cousins on a 4-year deal, almost $200 million. You have a team that you want to win with right now that you built up through the draft and that you've also signed some guys this offseason and last offseason. They have a nice looking offense. They have a young defense that can make some noise. So why the heck are you wasting the 8th overall pick on a player that you ideally do not want to play for 3-4 years? You had Roma Dunze at your disposal at pick number 8 to pair with Drake London.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you do something like that?
Yeah, I mean, for the life of me, we've been, probably the whole world has been thinking about this pick for days and how does it make sense? I saw like PFF tweet out like, "Oh, who's gonna stop this quarterback duo?" And like the top tweet was like, "That's not how that's not how the sport works."
Yeah. Imagine even posting that.
Yeah. So and I just for life of me, I can't understand it.
No.
I like Kirk Cousins. I kept saying during the offseason that personally I wouldn't sign him just because he's a 35, 36-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I don't think I'll ever know if that's their mindset on it. But what would be the point of signing Cousins?
Well, there wouldn't be any point. There really wouldn't. And Kirk, it came out he was shocked by it. He wasn't too very happy because their direction and decision with that pick, having the 8th overall pick, and you spend it on a guy that you ideally do not want to play for 3 years.
Right.
What is up with that?
I mean,
so then go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, this whole episode could literally turn into why Michael Penix was drafted 8 by the Falcons. We're not questioning why Michael Penix is drafted in the first round. We're just literally questioning why the Atlanta Falcons themselves. And Ed said it was within the last 10 years. I can't think of that off the top of my head. I just said I think as of right now, this is the worst pick in the decade.
Yeah.
And I think that'll probably stand for
Yeah.
until 2030 end.
Where will Michael Penix be in 2030? Is he?
I'm not sure.
Will he even be with the Falcons?
Not sure. Not sure.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me either. And
Kirk Cousins might be playing 2030.
he could be. He could be like if he's still if he's playing at a high level.
Yeah.
But when you think about it too, Kirk is still he's I'm sure he's going to be fine come training camp and everything like that.
Right.
But what if like for some reason Z like Michael Penix is just throwing dots out there and just looking great in camp, looking great in the season. Kirk hasn't really done a lot of football activity.
Right.
Do you feel like there's going to be a pressure on Atlanta to play him quickly, or like if that's the case or no?
Well,
because then again, if you do that, you're just what the heck was the point of signing Kirk Cousins?
Well, and I think what they're potentially thinking on this, and I'm going to pull up another clip that we actually pulled up during the draft, and it shows it shows the Falcons GM speaking to their owner, literally right after the pick,
right?
And you can see Arthur Blank is literally just dumbfounded,
Yeah.
And sure, we don't know the extent of that conversation that's going on, but I mean, honestly, and like we're gonna take that clip away because that clip is just unbelievable to see an owner questioning a GM about his pick.
Yeah.
I mean, and this must be draft day.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. It really definitely looks like it.
Awful movie. Awful movie.
Awful. I saw it in theaters too. My mom took me. Oh, just miserable.
Yeah.
It was miserable to watch. Arian Foster's in the movie.
Yeah.
The Browns trade out of the first.
Harry
They trade back into
Crews.
the first. It was a mess all over the place.
Oh, we have the first pick, we have the 5th pick, and we have the 30th pick.
Yeah.
Oh, we get an all pro punt returner. Oh, it's awful. Oh my God, it's awful.
Yeah, it was a terrible movie. It was all over the place.
Yeah. So, anyways, to answer your question, I don't know. I don't know. Like the Packers, relating it to the Packers still makes no sense because Jordan Love in a way was a project coming out of UConn when he was drafted. And you can't even compare this to before when you had like Rodgers and Brett Favre. Like maybe you can compare it to that way, but not really because at the time, I can't remember where Rodgers the first round pick.
Yeah, he was like the 20 something.
Right. I mean, so again, like this is just a different situation, just in the way of, like you just signed a franchise quarterback. I don't know if I want to use that term, but you get the point. So I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like in that quarterback room. I don't know what they're going to think if Michael Penix comes out throwing dots, plays in the preseason, plays really well. And at the end of the day, there's no way he starts week 1. There's just no way, unless Kirk gets hurt.
No. Yeah, no, there's no way. Kirk's definitely their guy. Kirk's definitely going to start. It's just going to be interesting. Like if you just
$90 million guaranteed.
Yeah, if they have a situation, it's going to be fascinating. Like if that I brought up, like maybe Kirk isn't quite playing yet fully, and then Penix is just looking great. Yeah. People are going to be talking about that on social media, but it's Kirk's job. It's Kirk's job this year. It's Kirk's job next year.
Yep.
But just what's the plan? Like if you're Atlanta, like are you hoping Kirk doesn't play these 4 years?
Right.
I don't know what that is.
But then why would you spend $90 million guaranteed on him?
No idea. Honestly, just no idea. Z. I really don't know.
So
it's mind-boggling.
So you're like you had a better season last year, and if you're going to build off that season by bringing in a veteran quarterback who's been in the playoffs, and you're building all these young pieces on offense, like why in the world? This question's probably been asked on First Take and on Colin Coward.
We'll be talking about it tomorrow.
Yep. The why in the world would you not use that number 8 pick for anything else?
Yeah. Or heck, trade it. If you didn't want somebody, like, then trade it. Trade it back.
Mm-hmm.
Or trade it for a player. I don't freaking know. There's got to be somebody out there that wanted the 8 pick.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's mind-boggling. Z and I will continue on in the draft discussion outside of really the big one that's kind of the elephant in the room.
F pick. F pick, F draft.
Yeah, easily.
And I don't give Fs to many teams.
No.
But not to be disrespectful towards Atlanta, but I guess in all realism, I'll give them like a D. I'll give them a D.
Yeah. No, it was I don't know. Everybody's still scratching their head. And see, if I was a Falcons fan, I would have been very, very, very heated.
Yep.
Which would have been great to see on stream. But I don't know how there's one Falcon fan out there that defends this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how. I really don't. It's mind-boggling. As we look at the rest of the draft, we had the first pick go off with Caleb Williams.
Yep.
And then the Patriots and Washington took Jaden Daniels and Drake May, so they both got their quarterbacks.
Yep.
Aside from Penix, Bo Nix was the last quarterback to get taken at 12. Z, do you think that Bo Nix is somebody that, since we're just on the quarterback topic real quick, do you think that Bo Nix, like, I don't know, like, I'm not asking you to break down all these aspects of his game because I know you wouldn't know all that answer either, but do you think that, like, this was a good decision by Denver to take him at 12? Or do you think like it should have been something maybe they looked to get him later in the draft?
Honestly, I don't know, and quite truly, I don't care because
Spike was very happy about this pick.
Yeah, because their quarterback situation, just trading for Zach Wilson, and then don't they have another quarterback on that roster?
Stidham. They have Jarrett Stidham.
God. So, yeah, I mean. I don't really care about the pick. If he works out, great, because I think maybe pairing him with Sean Payton might be better than people imagine.
Yeah,
but I just don't care.
Are you buying what Denver said that they were trying to troll Minnesota so they didn't take Bo Nix?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you really fooled.
Dude, they were really obviously taking McCarthy. That was a done deal like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, you really fooled all of us. No one cares.
Nobody cared.
And just in reference to, again, the pick was surprising. 100% was surprising. Again, obviously not as shocking as 3 picks before that or like 5 picks before that with Penix. But I don't know. I don't know what other team. I feel like Las Vegas would have took Bo Nix if he was there. So
yeah, they need one, but they're looking at Aiden O'Connell again.
Yeah. So no, if Denver was going in there needing a quarterback, and them probably knowing that or that Las Vegas was going to take one literally right after them, if one was available, then I guess they did the right thing.
Yeah. We look at the rest of the draft outside of quarterback, Z. What about the Chicago Bears drafting Rome Odunze, and they have him, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Caleb Williams? Do you think that that's like a cause of concern in a way because you have 2 wide receivers with Allen and DJ Moore that are going to want the ball, and then you bring in a number 9 pick that's obviously going to want to play and get the ball? Like, I don't know, how confident are you in that trio?
I'm not confident at all.
Yeah, I feel like Keenan Allen's going to be a one and done in Chicago.
Well, I'm not confident in the way of their like skill sets, but their personalities, their coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it's going to balance each other out, but it's talented. It's no question about it. Talented. You got a franchise quarterback, franchise potential number 1 receiver. You already have pretty much 2 number 1 receivers on the roster already.
Right.
You signed DeAndre Swift. You already have Cole Kmet, a top tight end in the league. So, if I'm a Bears fan, I would be ecstatic to watch that offense next season. And you just hope and pray that all the way through OTAs, mandatory minicamp, or not mandatory minicamp, but OTAs and training camp, that they are out there every single day with each other and there are no little nagging injuries to somebody. Because quite honestly, I'm excited to see them get on that field. Like week 1, preseason week 1, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, it definitely makes for a lot of potential of being fun to watch and exciting. A lot of times just when you pair 3 guys like that together, that not you got to wait on this rookie, but that are viewed as top tier wide receivers and they're all playing together, not everybody's going to be able to eat, man. There's going to be a week where DJ Moore has a down week and then he has a good week. Keenan Allen has a down week and then he has a good week. That's just the way it goes. So I don't know what the dynamic chemistry is going to be there. It's interesting, but I still like the move nonetheless because Odunze is part of your future plans. We look a lot of tackles off the board, Z. A lot of tackles were off the board. There's a little bit of a domino effect. You had Joe Alt by the Chargers at number 5. What do you think about that pick for the Chargers? And in terms of, because they got rid of their three top playmakers.
Yeah, it's boring, but it's quite honestly fine. It kind of reminds me when the Ravens took Ronnie Stanley with like the 6th pick back in like
Yeah, I remember you were just
2017.
staring through the TV.
Oh, I was fumed. I was fumed. So
I'll never forget that. You were sitting
yeah,
on that little whatchamacallit, that little stool in my
hmm
room
yep,
that I in front of the chair
yep,
and just blazing through the TV.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I had no words
Yeah.
because again, like if I'm waiting months for the draft and this is what I get, it's just like wow. So I don't know. I think Joel was probably the best tackle in the draft, but yeah, it's a super boring pick. Will it truly help out the Chargers next season immediately? I doubt it.
Yeah.
Because who's their number one receiver right now? Josh Palmer. Don't tell me Quentin Johnson, that guy's ass.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah. So yeah, and their 2 running backs, they signed both of them from the Ravens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a fine pick. It's a fine. He's probably gonna be a great player.
Yeah.
But
But it's just what's the plan for your offense? What's the plan for Justin Herbert? And right now, like you don't even have Gerald Everett anymore.
well, at this point, it doesn't even seem like a retool. This actually seems probably like a rebuild at this point
Yeah,
for
it
them.
does. So they view it like, okay, we got our quarterback,
Yep.
but we're looking at probably maybe a 1-2 year time frame with a new coach.
And then obviously with what many consider the best player in the draft, Marvin Harrison Jr., going to the
Yeah.
Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah,
He
we
was
can
the
talk about
first.
that.
He was the first receiver off the board. There were many receivers, as there are every single draft, but many receivers in the first round. Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, Brian Thompson, just to name a few. Uh,
Thoughts on Mitch being pissed about the Chargers not getting Harrison?
yeah, I mean, just stupid take.
Stupid text message.
Yeah, stupid. Like, why would you think he would be there? Oh my god.
Now that was a topic of discussion, Z, that the Vikings would maybe trade with the Cardinals. The Cardinals were open for business with that 4th pick. They made that known, but they decided to stay, and I think that was the right decision.
It was 100% the right decision. Maybe getting into the Cardinals draft real quick, because quite honestly, I thought they had the most important draft coming in, even over the Bears. They had look. I mean, they selected 12 players.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, and I know it's kind of hard to see those names, but I won't say all of them, but the big ones: Marvin Harrison out of Ohio State, Darius Robinson, I think out of Iowa, Max Melton, the corner, 2nd round, Trey Benson, running back out of Florida State, Isaiah Adams, Tip, can't forget Tip, and then from there, just a bunch of other positions. So, no, I mean, I was nervous going in, like leading into the draft, seeing all the trade rumors. I thought it would have been a horrific decision for the Cardinals to trade out of that force to not bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that'd be the mistake of the draft.
I agree. They needed a playmaker really bad, especially to help out Kyler Murray. Yeah. Marvin Harrison is a great addition. I think he's going to be a great wide receiver in this league. I actually thought they were going to double dip possibly at that 27th pick, but they took the top edge rusher, I guess, at that time, which was fine. They needed some help on defense, of course, and this guy could hopefully be an impact player right away for them in Darius Robinson. But it was definitely much needed 1st round overall pick for the Cardinals. Sticking with that, it was definitely the right decision. And having 12 picks, that's a lot of freaking draft picks.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's honestly a ton. Like you don't see many teams that have that many picks. I mean, the Ravens had 9, and I thought 9 was a lot.
Yeah.
But like transitioning to the Steelers, because we have the Steelers draft up. Unless we're kind of missing anything specifically around the rest of the league itself, I don't really think so. I don't really care about Drake May or Jane Daniels.
Yeah, we don't really need to talk about that. Going into the Steelers, obviously, as you guys know, Steelers are my team.
Because of course we're going to, sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, of course, after we're done at this point talking about the rest of the league, we're gonna get into the Steelers and Ravens here. So we'll start off with the Steelers. Me pulling up the Steelers draft class. Very offensive line heavy. Very. Yeah. Start off with the first 2 picks being offensive linemen. And then obviously took the receiver out of Michigan. So I'll let you obviously go ahead and go first about there.
Yeah. With the Steelers draft this year, it was with the Steelers draft this year, I said what actually makes this fun for me, and I think for most fans, is that this year was very unpredictable. That's what's very fun about it. The Steelers this year could have went in a lot of different ways with their first round pick. There are rumors about them possibly trading it for a wide receiver. There were people and myself and what was coming out of in terms of who the Steelers were looking at was like, okay, could they go offensive line? Could they go wide receiver, corner, center? Those were at least the four positions that were being talked about that the Steelers could look at with this draft pick. And there was just nothing or really any type of hint of really anything that could lead you to believe that they were definitely going this certain way. The last 3 years, you could say that. They took Broderick Jones last year at left tackle. A lot of people figured they were probably going to look at line. The year before that, they took Kenny Pickett at quarterback. They needed a quarterback. And they took Najee Harris, and that was not a very well-kept secret. So this year, it was really the opposite. And that's what made it very entertaining. Well, Z, this is Z's favorite Twitter user, everybody, my guy, Kevin Adams.
Don't make me pull up the tweets.
Let's read it. Omar Khan, Andy Weidel have quite literally made magic happen in the Steelers roster over the course of 2 off seasons, and people will really still sit here and think they don't have a plan at cornerback. So you can go through that. You can go through his whole entire tweets, and you'd feel like they won the championship.
Yeah, I mean,
so Z's favorite Twitter user, Kevin Adams. Everybody, give a hand for Kevin Adams.
Absolutely.
I met him. I met him at a tailgate. So
no one's clapping.
But yeah, looking at the Steelers draft, man, I'm very well pleased with it. I like it a lot. I was very hopeful that they were going to trade the 20th pick for Brandon Ayuk. I was saying, man, I can't wait till the Steelers are on at 20th and we see that Niners logo come up. But it didn't happen.
IHOP.
IHOP. So we saw that IHOP logo come up quite a bit.
Yep. And then we started saying Waffle House, and then we started saying Cracker Barrel, and Denny's.
Yeah, Dennis's. God. But yeah, their draft was very offensive heavy, offensive line, which anybody will tell you that was the direction to go. They took Troy Fontanu first round. He's going to start week 1, 100%. Goodbye, Dan Moore. Then came the second round, and it was like, okay, do they look at one of these wide receivers or do they look at the center? And they decided to take the center, Zach Frazier, out of West Virginia, who was one of their top guys on the line on their draft board. And they even didn't think that he was going to be there. And they said that it was a no-brainer. So now you get a center who's going to start week 1 in Zach Frazier. And then they get a wide receiver in round 3, Roman Wilson, who is a physical wide receiver, who loves to block. He's a guy they're probably going to utilize in the slot a lot, but they needed some help there. And those 3 picks to me is what makes them have a really good draft. So you shored up your offensive line even more than what you've had in recent years. You got Broderick Jones now, Isaac Seumalo, who you signed last year. You have a new center. You have James Daniels in there, who's entering his last year of his contract, and then your first round draft pick as well, Fontanu there. So your offensive line is pretty shored up. There's a lot of promise and long-term promise there. And then you get the wide receiver, and then they draft another guard / center in the 4th round. And then they filled out their last 3 picks with a defensive lineman, a linebacker, or no. The 4th round, they took the linebacker, Peyton Wilson, who's had a lot of medicals. He doesn't have an ACL for some reason, but if certain medicals check out from all, I guess not. But from what I've read, and I can't say this as somebody where I've watched Peyton Wilson in his college career, but from what I've read is somebody that's a great tackler, very fast, very good in pass coverage. And that's something the Steelers, a dynamic they didn't have at linebacker. So I'm assuming maybe that's a direction why they went there in terms of giving a chance to this kid and giving him an opportunity, liking what's there. Obviously, you have the medical concern, but if he's somebody that can give them health and everything, I think that he's actually going to see a decent amount of play on the field this year. When you look at the rest of the draft, they added a defensive lineman, Logan Lee, double L, and then they took a corner as well with one of their last picks. So overall, I'm very pleased with their draft. I thought they had a really good draft last year. They had a really good draft again this year. And I just like that they added guys last year and this year that are guys that are going to impact right away. And I think that this season, their first 3 picks are at least guys that are going to impact right away. And that's really what they needed, especially on their offensive line. So I gave their draft grade just a solid A. I think that there's a couple other teams that had really good drafts too, but I just gave it a solid A, not because I'm a Steeler fan. They've had some bad drafts. Kevin Colbert, probably his last 4 or 5 drafts were very, very suspect. The last 2 with Omar Khan, the new general manager, very promising and very, very good for their future. And I'm excited to see how this offensive line is going to do this year, Z, because it's been absolutely miserable. So no more Dan Moore, no more Mason Cole, no more of those guys.
Cole
yeah,
for
Core 4 gone as well.
horrendous.
So very, very exciting for this year and their future. I think they did a great job.
Sure. Well, okay. If I'm going to start off with my draft grade for them, I'm going to give them an A minus. I'm going to give them an A minus for mine. I'm a big fan of. I'm always a fan. I feel like anybody who just doesn't watch football isn't a fan of it. But when you already have like your quarterback set and your running back and your number 1 receiver, you need to build an offensive line. You just have to.
100%.
And the Steelers have been in a few year now process of building their offensive line again.
Yeah.
Ever since like Pouncey retired, and then Castro retired, and like after all these guys just started leaving, it started being a process of them retooling their offensive line, and they have, like Ann just pointed out. And this time around, they took 3 offensive linemen in the first 4 rounds. So they're not joking around with it. They're not joking around with rebuilding their offensive line, and I think you can't hate on it. You can't, because it's just the right thing to do for the state of that roster and that team. So the way they're building off their offensive line, I'm going to show them a lot of respect and gratitude for, just because they're going young and they're building their youth on the offensive line. And this could be an offensive line for as long as this pans out. Like, this could be what we see in Philadelphia. Just an offensive line that will stick together, an offensive line that will stick together forever. And I think it's just a big success. Now, in reference to their receiver pick, obviously not like the most big name receiver in the draft, but someone that definitely offsets the skill set of George Pickens and Van Jefferson. I do think they need to add another receiver at some point, but that's a different conversation. And then, I think bringing in Peyton Willis is appropriate in the way of he's not going to come in as the starter. He's going to come in and compete. But honestly, that's ideal, because if you already have Queen and Holcomb and even Landon Roberts, sure, obviously Peyton Wilson's going to come in and probably play special teams off the jump. But that's kind of what you want, especially for a mid-round linebacker. Like, have him work his way up.
Definitely.
And all the other guys, I mean, they're late round picks: Logan Lee, Ryan Watts.
Yeah, you just hope it just kind of fills some depth out.
Yeah, positions they just addressed that could have used a tad bit more depth. I definitely do want to see them maybe for the rest of the offseason into training camp, maybe see them address the cornerback position. But again, a conversation for another time. So, I give it A minus. I think it was a successful draft. I think they just essentially just let the board fall to them, and there's nothing wrong with that draft philosophy.
No, definitely not. It helped with some of those quarterbacks coming off early as they did, so that definitely helped them out. But yeah, I don't think that there's anybody that should be upset at all with the direction they went. I'm very excited about their offensive line and the future of it. So Z, we'll go with the Ravens draft. You can go ahead.
Right. I'll go ahead and pull up the picture of the Ravens draft picks. So the Baltimore Ravens picked 30th in the first round. Again, a team that does go best player available. They typically never go position by need. And honestly, we all know those are the teams that succeed the most. So, so the Ravens, they picked Nate Wiggins in the first round, Roger Goodell.
I got that pick right. I got that pick correct too. We were late in the second round,
Yep.
And Z and I saw the Ravens were on the clock, and Z gave me a prediction. He just said, I think they'll go offensive line. And I
Yeah.
said, all right, I'm going Roger Rosengarten, the tackle.
Yep.
And they got him.
And then got it right. Yeah. Um, Roger Goodell's coming to Baltimore.
Yeah, Roger's coming.
So they went Roger Rosengarten in the second round, right tackle, or tackle, we should just say. Third round, they went Adisa, if I'm pronouncing his name right, Adisa Isaac, edge rusher out of Penn State. Fourth round, they went Devontae Walker, wide receiver out of North Carolina. Fourth round again, they went TJ Tampa out of Iowa State. Fifth round, Rasheen Ali out of Marshall. Fifth round, I think it was fifth round. Maybe it was six. And then whatever. And then they took Devin Leary, quarterback out of Kentucky. And they took Nick Samick, center out of Michigan State. And then lastly, I don't know how to pronounce the guy's first name, but his last name is Kane, safety out of Purdue.
Well, there you go.
So I don't really know my initial thoughts on the Ravens draft. If I would give it a grade, I would give it a B+. So I give it a tier under the Steelers draft. But what I like what the Ravens did was double down on the cornerback position. I like doubling down on the cornerback position because at the end of the day, not both of them are going to work out.
Right.
But yeah. I'll take the optimism of one of them working out.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me when the Ravens took back in 2018, they took Hayden Hurst in the first round, and then they took Mark Andrews. Yeah. Yeah. Awful.
That's
awful.
just a waste of a pick. I mean, believe me, every team's had him, but.
Yep. So they took Hayden Hurst in the first round, and then they took Mark Andrews in the third, and Mark Andrews ended up being a mile better than him.
Right.
So it's just I kind of use that comparison of just one of those guys will work out. One of them work out. I like both of them as players because both of them were highly regarded cornerbacks. So I love them doubling down on the cornerback position.
Yeah.
In reference
Mel
to
Kiper had TJ Tampa as his most underrated cornerback in the draft. So take that for what it's worth. It's Mel Kiper. But Mel Kiper does his homework on these guys.
See him once a year.
So once a year. But he's back to the drawing board already. His 1.0 for next year is already out.
Yeah, he is. Reference to the other guys, Isaac. It was funny is before they picked Isaac, I said I'm like I don't think they should go edge rusher, and then they picked Isaac.
Yeah, then they picked Isaac, and then Z was clapping.
Yeah. And I never said it was an A+ pick. I never said that.
Yeah.
It's again just another project that the Ravens are putting on their outside linebacker position that never seems to work out. So we'll see there.
It's really like when you look at their drafts since we've started watching football, it's been like just the edge and the wide receiver they just could not get right.
No.
And the Steelers have that too. Like the Steelers have had that for like their corners. For example, like they just could not draft cornerbacks, dude. Like other than Porter, they could not draft them. First, second, third round, it just did not work. So it's kind of like the same thing there. Like each team kind of has its position, like they just can never get right.
Exactly.
And the Ravens have just struggled with edge lately in wide receiver.
Yeah. So that's kind of the same thing. Why I'm just nervous for the Isaac pick. He's obviously uber athletic, so we'll see him come in there. Rosegard was a great pick because he's definitely going to have the position. He's definitely got
he'll be he's a part of their future for sure.
Yeah, so he'll have the chance to start week 1.
Yeah.
Reference to the other ones, Devontae Walker. We'll see. He's a fast guy, but the Ravens already have a bunch of fast guys at their receiver position.
Right.
TJ Tampa will have a chance to definitely move up in the cornerback room. Devin Leary just going to battle for a backup quarterback spot. Nick Samick, he's just going to battle to be the backup center to Tyler Linderbaum. And then Rasheen Ali, he'll definitely have a chance to make the roster because Derrick Henry's the starter, obviously. Justice Hill will be the backup, and Keith Mitchell's working his way back from an ACL injury. So Rasheen Ali, the running back, will have a chance to make the roster and potentially make a name for himself too while Mitchell is recovering from knee injury. Kane, the safety out of Purdue. The Ravens are still very, very kind of short on depth at safety, although they have their 2 starters in place. So Kane will have a chance to maybe make a name for himself. And then lastly, obviously, the first round pick, Nate Wiggins.
Right.
A guy that a lot of people liked at the cornerback position. Fits the Ravens mold on how
He's very fast.
Yeah, can definitely kind of build up his muscle mass and really just his straight up body weight to compete in the NFL.
Guy's a coat rack.
But again, he fits the Ravens' philosophy, how they play coverage, is how they play
Yeah.
defense.
Yeah.
So yeah, doubling down quarterback position, I like that. I like them taking Rosengarten, but really, and at the end of the day, if I wish that they did something a bit different, is I wish they would have went a little bit more with the offensive line. So now we're going to be going into the offensive line, or excuse me, into training camp.
Yeah. What are they looking like going to training camp, Z? Let the audience know.
Well, 2 starters are in place already. You have Ronnie Stanley left tackle. You have Tyler Linderbaum at center. It seems like a very popular thing that Andrew Voorhees will be the favorite at left guard, because last season, I don't know if many people know, but he was a very highly regarded player coming out of USC.
Mm-hmm.
He set the record, I think, for bench presses, but he tore his ACL. But he tore his ACL during the combine. And then obviously,
That's right, he did.
Yep. And so what does that cause? Obviously, somebody to drop all the way down. So the Ravens took him all the way in the 7th round.
Damn.
And he's coming in ready to go. So we'll see.
That's brutal, though. That sucks. Like,
yeah,
you're somebody that's probably going to go definitely, like, I don't know. I don't really know where his projection was at the time, but definitely
like
somebody that's going to go like 2nd round, 3rd round. You blow out your knee at the combine, and then you almost go undrafted.
Right. So he's going to come in as the favorite. The other guard position, I mean, kill me, Ben Cleveland. And then right tackle will probably be competed between Rosengarten and Daniel Falale. They have a bunch of other names that I'm not going to throw out and bore everybody with.
Where's Macari?
Well, they use Macari as a Swiss Army knife. He can play literally every single position in the offensive line. So I don't think he should start.
Would love no, he's on the team still.
Well, he'll be on the roster. Trust me. I just don't think he should start.
He's a lifer. He's a Raven for life.
Yeah, he's a lifer.
I really think so.
Yeah, so I definitely wish they addressed the offensive line a bit more. But again, at the end of the day, I'll give it a B+.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think a B+ is a good grade for them, because you're probably not going to have your corner that you got be in that starting rotation week 1, but definitely somebody is a long-term answer at your corner spot. He can definitely become. You could make an argument he was the 2nd best corner on the during the draft, the 3rd best, however you want to argue it. Some think he was the best, but regardless, they got great value there at 30, and somebody who he'll see playing time, but somebody who is an answer for a long-term option at corner. Love the tackle pick in the 2nd round. Sure, I don't know a lot about him, but it makes sense. It's a guy that's ready to play, a guy that's going to compete to be that guy. So you're able to get somebody out of that. And you get an edge rusher, which they needed some help there. Their edge is, I'm be honest, it's miserable, as you know. Like it is. It's their biggest question mark for sure. So you get a guy in there, as he said, definitely more project-esque, not somebody that's just going to hop right in and carry the position on his shoulders, but somebody who's going to fight for some time, somebody that's going to fight for some being a part of that rotation, which seems like it's kind of what the Ravens have been doing for a little while now, is more of a rotation at that position than just having a solidified guy. The rest of the draft, yeah, it kind of goes for every team whenever it gets to these later picks, and really just who turns out, who becomes a good depth piece versus who doesn't. The Ravens had 9 picks, so they're going to have kind of their cream of the crop to really kind of see what these guys got and can pick from. But some of the positions they got later in the draft are positions that make sense. You look at the back later on the draft, you look at Watkins at wide receiver. It still makes sense. It's not like that they're just getting guys just to get guys. Like it kind of makes sense in terms of when you kind of break it down, maybe why they looked at that position and whatnot. But especially their first 3 picks, I liked a lot. And I think at least for their first 2, Wiggins is going to play, but we'll kind of see how quickly he comes on. But you get a long-term answer there. You get a guy that can possibly start right away at right tackle. You get some other guys, you have to see how they play, but it makes sense with the positions that they went with. So I think there's a lot of positive things to come out of it. So I'll give it a B+ as well.
Yeah, drafting Devin Leary doesn't really mean much. He's just going to battle for a backup quarterback position.
Yeah,
drafting Rasheen Ali, just going to battle for a 3rd running back position. So many people already know with the Ravens roster, most of their starters are already set.
Yeah,
but
that's just kind of how those late picks goes. Is like those are guys
right.
there that you hope that can fill out your depth chart and make a name in training camp, make a name during the preseason.
Mhm.
and give you at least an option if it needs to come down to that.
Yeah. And I'm not going to I'm not going to alarm the pass rush quite yet because people said the same thing about the Ravens last offseason, and then they led the league in sacks.
Right.
So,
Which I was one of them, but now
yep.
you just don't have Clowney who helped out with that,
Yep. You
and
don't. And you don't
you
have
don't
Queen. You don't have
you don't
Queen.
have Patrick Queen anymore.
You
So,
get, yep.
uh, those are some things too, and they lost a lot of defensive coaches, and I
Yeah, they did.
honestly think that those were some of their bigger losses in the offseason than just some of the players they lost.
Yeah.
So those are some things just to keep an eye out for. But yeah, other than that, in terms of our teams turning to some of the draft, I think some of the winners of this draft as well, aside from when we broke down our teams, I really liked what the Bears did. I think Washington had a good draft. I know we're not really going to go too much into that. I think the Eagles had a great draft. They traded up for Terrion Arnold, and they got a guy that can be a productive corner almost right away. And then they get Cooper DeJean, who fell right into their lap in round 2. Those first 2 picks, they needed really a lot of help in that secondary. Their defense was very disappointing last year. Those are 2 guys that should be an impact right away for them. So I really liked what those 3 teams did. Like the Cardinals, I would put them in winners in my territory, in my book. I even like what the Chiefs did. Trading up for Xavier Worthy, you get a guy who's very fast to pair with Patrick Mahomes. Anybody that you probably plug in that offense is going to do well. And I like that one tackle, Kingsley. I forget his last name that they got. A guy that can kind of. I know that they got what's his face,
Jawan
Jawan
James.
Taylor. Jawan
Or is it Jawan Taylor? Yeah.
Jawan Taylor. Yeah, I know that you got a guy like that. They've kind of flip-flop some guys, but he's a guy as well that can kind of sit in the wings, progress and develop a little bit, and you can get you got a guy in the second round, again, that you hope to kind of be a tackle for you, possibly maybe at some point this year or just next year, and be a future piece on your line. So I think those first 2 picks right away did really well for them. So those are my winners. Obviously, the losers. If I had to break some guys down, Falcons obviously losers, no
Obviously.
question about it. I didn't really like Denver's draft too much either. Even with Bo Nix in there, I just didn't really. I don't know. Didn't really buy it too much. I don't really even like the Saints draft. Like the Saints, I know they didn't really have many draft picks, but their first 2 picks, like, I don't know. They're kind of in a. I think that there was something better to kind of move the ball for them a little bit, because like I don't think they have an awful team, but I also don't think that they're in a position to really be above average, if that makes sense. Like they're just going to kind of be meh. I think that there was a little bit of better options with your first couple picks that you could have went with. And I think outside the Saints, if I had to maybe give one more team in terms of their direction that they went, I'm gonna say the Chargers. Like I know the Chargers got Lad McConkey in the second round, but again, like it just didn't move the needle for me. I think with what you need with Justin Herbert, I know that you're probably in a spot where you're looking at next year or in a couple years, especially with a new coach and everything like that. But seriously, man, like I don't think they needed to trade Keenan Allen. I just don't like what they have with surrounding him. Justin Herbert hasn't really come into his own yet, where he can just develop all these type of wide receivers like you see some of the other top quarterbacks do. And I think that there's a much different direction they could have went. You could have traded down. You could have got another tackle in the second round. You could have gotten a playmaking wide receiver in the first round. I don't know. That's the way I view it. So those are some of my losers, some of my winners. I could break it down even more, but we would just be here for too long.
Yeah. I mean, losers, I'm just going to say Falcons.
Yeah,
Falcons.
for sure. Definitely the big.
No further explanation.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys just absolutely fail next year. And again, the fans you had the game is the exact reason why.
Yes,
or at the draft.
Yes, it is.
Winners.
All you got to do is look back and look at the ladies that work at Popeyes.
Yeah, you're right. Winners. Yeah, I'll put the Cardinals in there, but another team I actually put in there, which LaShawn McCoy earlier gave just a horrible explanation to. But I'm gonna say Minnesota. I'm gonna say Minnesota.
Okay, yeah, they had a good draft too. Yeah, I would agree. I
like them taking JJ's a bit of a project himself, but he does come from a solidified program, and he's been in the spotlight, and he's going to come to a great offense and offensive coach.
Yeah, 100%.
So
yeah, I like the draft a lot.
And then obviously drafting possibly the best edge rusher in the draft too. So
yeah,
I'm gonna throw Minnesota in there as well.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, now that the draft is done, we're gonna wait till OTAs approaches here, and then that might be our next really NFL video. So
yeah, Z, who's also one more loser for me is the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, yeah.
I think they had a horrific draft.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this is probably up until, I don't know, Z. I don't really know the next time we'll do an NFL video.
Probably just
Probably
training
up
camp.
until, maybe once training camp comes around. Z and I will talk about some things in terms of MLB and with baseball season. We're still going to be putting out our basketball NBA content with the playoffs going on. Once round 2 is official and set in stone, Z will have a lot to talk about on that one, especially as the Suns look to be getting swept, possibly.
I hope it happens tonight.
Yep. So we'll be hoping that happens. But you guys will be hearing for us then. It could even be something non-sports related that we think about that we want to talk about. You guys can let us know in the comment section anything else that you would like us to talk about or break down, anything along those type of lines. But yeah, with coming out of the fallout, the NFL draft, Z and I wanted to kind of break that down for some of you guys who are also fans of that, kind of see what you guys think about that, and you guys can kind of know what we're thinking about it. But other than that, Z and I will be back with some NBA content, some baseball content, maybe something else you never know on this channel. So other than that, guys, we appreciate each and every one of your guys' support. Another episode here of Who Are These Guys? And we're just going to keep putting out content, guys. Keep trying to grow this sucker. So we thank you guys so much, and we will see you guys next time for some MLB or NBA content or whatever it is. Who knows? So you guys can stay tuned, subscribe, hit the notification so you guys can see when our content comes out. Thank you to each and every one of you. We appreciate your support. We'll see you.